Good evening, everypony, and since today my channel isn't being invaded by other reviewers, extra-dimensional beings, or some kind of terrifying eldritch abomination, I reckon now is as good a time as any to just sit back and do a normal fic review. But I do have quite a few fics on my backlist. I wonder what kind of story I should review today. Ooh, I've got an idea! I'll look at a fanfic written by someone who's infinitely more well-known than I am, and then mooch off their popularity! Am I losing artistic integrity by doing that? Well, I've come this far. Today we're looking at the story Lone Princess by Inkrose. Lone Princess is a fairly short sad fic that originally showed Princess Luna wandering around a deserted castle and experiencing her worst fear of being alone for the rest of her life. This was caused by her looking through the magic door that Sombra created in the Crystal Empire. However, because of the positive reception the story got, an extra chapter was added which detailed what happened when Celestia looked through the door. Aside from that, nothing much else really happens in the story. But then again, not much else really needs to. It's a story that didn't need to be stretched out anymore and is kind of the perfect length by itself. So let's dive right into it, shall we? So the main thing that Lone Princess gets right is its atmosphere. For how short the story actually is, it manages to capture the feel of an icy, quiet, and desolate place very well. In addition, the drastic shift in setting when all of a sudden a large group of ponies begin waltzing in a ballroom in this originally empty castle makes the scene downright creepy and adds a lot more to the overall tone of the story. Unfortunately, however, this great atmosphere isn't carried over into the second chapter, which details what Celestia saw. Whereas the first chapter had good mysterious build-up, the second chapter just kind of throws you into the water and doesn't really give you any time to get used to the setting. However, if I may be permitted to rebuttal myself, I can't help but think that that was supposed to be the idea. In a way, the contrast between the two chapters reflects the moods of day and night. Night being very mysterious, and day being very energetic, so possibly the chapters were written in order to reflect that, since Celestia's chapter does go much faster than Luna's. Now, I'm not sure if this was the intent, but again, this is just the interpretation of one poofy-haired horsefic reviewer who is quite possibly reading a bit too much into fanfiction for his own good. But personally, I was a bit more of a fan of the slow build-up of the first chapter than I was of the second. Apart from the atmosphere, we get some good interaction between the sisters once they snap out of Sombra's spell. Both of them react like how I imagine they would in the show if they ended up in this situation, and their sisterly bond, while not really given much time on screen, is still quite believable. I kinda wish I had more to say about them since I really like reading stories which shows the sisters' relationship, but the little that we're given is still nice to see. Lastly, on the good side of things, I want to talk about Celestia's chapter. As said before, this chapter was written a while after the original one-shot was published. Now, the argument that I see directed at this chapter, however, is that it's unnecessary and doesn't really add all that much to the story as a whole. Now, on the one hand, the people that say that are kinda right. In terms of adding anything major to the story, the second chapter adds basically nothing. However, personally, I think this chapter is a very nice addition. Mostly because I like the way it portrayed Celestia. In the show, Celestia is seen as this sort of completely stable, almost untouchable character, which is why I like it when stories give Celestia a weakness. After all the crap that Celestia has had to endure over the past 1,000 years, she's bound to be hiding some serious emotional battle scars. Or she could just be really pressured by her role as a ruler and never lets it show. The latter is exactly what's portrayed in the second chapter, and it manages to make Celestia's fear quite an interesting topic to read about. That's the whole reason why I enjoyed the second chapter, because it makes Celestia seem like a much more sympathetic character. She's a pony I love seeing on screen and reading about, so seeing this kind of stuff in fanfics is always cool to me. So, with all the good stuff covered, there's one quick thing that I want to touch on before I end the review. And before I start, I acknowledge that what I'm about to complain about is incredibly petty and minute, but I just think it needs to be said. So at the end of the two chapters, once each sister has recovered from the spell, the other sister sings a song to remind their sibling that they'll always be there to look after them. A touching moment, but my problem here is with the song itself. And not so much in terms of the lyrics, but more in terms of its inclusion in the fic in general. If you're going to put a song in your fanfic, parody something, or use the tune of an existing song. The problem with writing original music for your story is that while you may know what the melody of the song is supposed to be, The reader doesn't, so to us it's just a bunch of words that are supposed to be put to music. Again, I know that this problem is very minute, but whenever I see it done, it just kills the fic for a little while for me. It's a problem that I had with the first part of the Pony Point of View series. As awesome as a fic as it is, whenever a song popped up, I just couldn't get into it. Some stories do it correctly, like Bride of Discord and Recasted, because they parody existing songs, and as a result we can kind of hear the melody in our heads and sort of sing along to the words that are on the page. Again, a nitpick that's very, very tiny, but just something that I wanted to get off my chest. But I think you'll be glad to know that that's where my negatives end. As short of a fic as it is, I find it quite enjoyable. It has good atmosphere, good build-up, good insight on characters. It's an all-around pretty interesting story. If you've got some extra time on your hands, I say pull it up and take a read for yourself. Feels pretty good to just sit back and talk about a story without anything weird happening. Though, knowing my luck, I'm sure it won't last too long. Oh, actually, that reminds me. So, I'm off hold now, yes? And you'll be able to send someone over, yes? Okay, great. Just make sure he gets here, okay? Right, yeah, thanks, goodbye. Well, I suppose it wouldn't be a normal day around here without something strange going on now, would it? Regardless, however, thank you all very much for watching. I'm EmeraldComet, and I will see you all next time.